So if you've been working through this, you've probably already gotten tired of writing the whole electron configuration, and that's perfectly fine. So what I want to do is show you how to make a consistent shortcut that'll save you a lot of writing, but still express all of the information that we need, because we don't just write electron configurations for the fun of it. We write them because there's information in them that helps us understand the next things that come along, which is what your activity is about today if you haven't started it yet. And so we use electron configurations for other purposes. We use them to help us understand some things about the atom. So I don't want to cut out any important information. What is the important information then? Well, do you remember last week's activity when I had you draw boxes around the electrons in the highest energy level? Well, it turns out that's usually the most important information. And so, in other words, I'm going to look for the highest energy level. And wherever that highest energy level starts, then I want to write out all of what follows that. Everything from the start of the highest energy level onward. Okay, so here that would be the start of the highest energy level, and then I want to write the rest of it. The start of the highest energy level, and I want to write the rest of it. But everything that becomes before the start of the highest energy level is not really important to what we're looking at. And it's all identical. And so this is the material that I can shortcut. This is what I can not write and fill in an abbreviation instead. So what are we going to use to abbreviate this? Because for different elements in different rows, the part that we're not writing is going to be different. Right? Well, in this case, 1s2, 2s2, 2p6, 3s2, 3p6, right? That is the electron configuration for argon. So what's in the yellow box, if it was by itself, would be the electron configuration for argon. And so that's what I'm going to use as my shortcut. I'm going to put argon in place of that section right there. Right? Replace the yellow part with the element that would have that electron configuration if it was by itself. And so it would look like this. So I fill in argon in place of 1s2, 2s2, 2p6, 3s2, 3p6, right? And argon has that electron configuration, so that represents the part that's missing. And then from the start of the highest energy level, I actually do write out whatever remains. In this case, it's just 4s1, but in the next case, right, I'd have argon, so that's all of this, and then 4s2, 3d10, 4p3. 4s2, 3d10, 4p3. So that doesn't change. Same thing here. I substitute argon in, and then 4s2, 3d10, 4p5. Now notice that argon is a noble gas. And because what I've told you is we're always going to keep the part of the electron configuration from the start of the highest energy level onward. Well, the highest energy level always starts with an S sublevel, which always comes after P6. So that means we're always going to be shortcutting at P6 here, right? And this happened to shortcut at 3p6 because the highest energy level in this one is 4. But if I had an element that's in row 5, my shortcut would end with 4p6, right? So no matter what we do, if you follow this exact system to shortcut, it will always be a noble gas that we substitute in there, because the noble gases are the elements that end with p6 here. Right, so going back to the periodic table here, if I have an element in row 3, I could shortcut by writing neon and then just picking up from 3s1 and 3s2 here. Remember, whenever we start a highest energy level, we start with S, and then you can pick up the pattern there. So for example, sulfur would be neon 3s2, 3p1, 2, 3, 4, 3p4 right there. Okay. If I have an element that's in row 4, I would use argon at the end of row 3 to be the shortcut. That's what we just practiced. So bromine would be argon, 4s2, 3d10, 4p5. If I have an element in row 5, my shortcut would be krypton. If I have an element in row 6, my shortcut would be xenon. So we don't use the noble gas at the end of the previous row as a shortcut, and we don't have to write anything up to that point. And then we have to pick up the pattern from the start of the highest energy level, which means after the shortcut, we always start with an S sublevel that comes next. So let me do one example of that from your packet as well. Okay, silver down here, which actually is going to come back later on in our activity as well. Oops, that was the wrong screen. There you go. So let me do silver, and then we'll draw back on that at the very end of class to talk about one more small thing. All right, so silver is Ag. It has 47 electrons. Now I'm going to write out the whole electron configuration here, but you don't have to. You just have to write the shortcut. So bear with me for a second. And I want to point out that silver is in row 5, and it's a transition metal. And transition metal means it's going to end with a D sublevel. So I have 1s2, 2s2, 2p6, 3s2, 3p6, 4s2, and then 3d10, 4p6. Now I'm getting to row 5. So I know I keep going until at least I see the number 5 in there, right? Row 5 means energy level 5, right? At this point, I am at 38 electrons. I've put in 38 electrons there. And so that means that my last sublevel here will be 4d9. That's in there. So that's the full electron configuration. So how do I shortcut this? All right, so here's my key point right here. That's the start of the highest energy level. So then I'm going to shortcut everything that comes before that. We start at the highest energy levels beginning, and then we keep everything that comes afterwards. But which element ends in 4p6? Well, that's krypton. And how do I know that? Well, if I'm in row 5, I want the noble gas at the end of row 4. Or you can remember that noble gases always end with P6, and then krypton is the noble gas in row 4. Right? So the noble gas at the end of the previous row, which is row 4, is what we use for a shortcut for an element that's in row 5. And then I'll finish with 5s2, 4d9. So that's all you have to write there. That's the correct answer. Now that's how the shortcut works. Now, having said that, only in worksheets, and I think one question on the quiz, does it specifically ask for the shortcut electron configuration, which means that for the most part, you don't have to use it. I'd like you to try to use it just so that you can recognize it if you see it, even if you choose not